We had this horrific train accident in the Philadelphia area. This is the train that runs from Washington, D.C. to New York City. And it appears, I mean, you know, nobody's officially saying this, but if you listen to the accounts of the passengers that are being made public, it appears that the train hit a curve going too fast. And the same thing had happened back in, I think it was 74. There was a very lethal, very deadly train crash in the same place, and apparently for roughly the same reason. But it raises a really important question. I mean, back before Reaganism took over America, we actually in this country believed in the United States. Abraham Lincoln helped build the railroad system across this country. We believed in the United States. Abraham Lincoln built the land-grant college system, 56, I think it is, over 50 colleges where students could go to school for free were established by Abe Lincoln. Franklin Roosevelt built infrastructure all over the country, you know, most of it having to do with electricity and power and telephones and things. JFK said in 1961, well, here's what JFK said in 1961. Oh, this is the moon sod. He said, we're going to go to the moon. You know, we can do big things here. Here he is.
Why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
Wow. Wow. I mean, this is when we believed in America, right? I mean, John Kennedy talked about this frequently. In fact, he talked about Abe Lincoln putting together the land-grant colleges. Here he is.
And those who say that what we are now talking about spoils our great pioneer heritage should remember that the West was settled with two great actions by the national government. One, in President Lincoln's administration, when he gave a homestead to everyone who went west, and in 1862 he set aside government property to build our land-grant colleges. This cooperation between an alert and progressive citizenry and a progressive government is what has made this country great, and we shall continue as long as we have the opportunity to do so.
We, I think, being the royal we, in other words, JFK, well, no, the country, too. I mean, it was progressive citizenry. Lincoln was a progressive. He would not be welcome in today's Republican Party, I'm quite sure, although they love to invoke him. And Kennedy. We believed in America. And then along came Ronald Reagan. And Ronald Reagan had this to say about our government, our nation, this government that was created by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and all those guys, all those, you know, dead white guys, but it was a government that was created by them in the Declaration of Independence. Governments are instituted among men to provide for their safety and their happiness. It's very straightforward. The government is what the United States is. We built it, we created it, we bled and died for it. But this is what Reagan had to say about that.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Is evil, right? Government is the problem. And so starting in the 1980s, we basically just, you know, started defunding or cutting funding or stopped the growth of funding to the programs, the kind of infrastructure that would make America great. You have, I remember Bernie Sanders, maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, was talking about how he was in Vermont in a town in Vermont talking to the mayor, and they were digging up the street out in front of somebody's house or something, or maybe it was in front of City Hall because Bernie was there. And the mayor pointed down to the water lines underground, and he says words to the effect of, it's been a while since I heard the story, so this is from my memory. But he said words to the effect of, that water pipe, you know how old that water pipe is? And Bernie said, I don't know how old. And the guy says, well, it was laid there by returning soldiers from the Civil War. It literally dated back to like the 1860s or 1870s. That's our infrastructure. The Japan just announced, I mean, this was last month, but just announced that they have a new maglev train. They tested it last week. Now, maglev means it's actually levitated off the tracks, right? Instead of taking all that energy and making wheels spin, they take the energy and they lift the train off the tracks, so there's no resistance from the rails, and then the thing just flies along the track, right? It's levitating, literally, on magnetism. Japan tested a maglev train with a top speed of 374 miles an hour. China, right now, which was just 3 decades ago was a third world country with basically no high-speed infrastructure whatsoever. China has the world's fastest commercial maglev train, travels at 268 miles an hour. I mean, we have our priorities all screwed up. We spent $1 trillion on Star Wars that everybody at the time said wouldn't work, and to this day still doesn't work. You know, Ronnie Reagan's project. Oh, it's fine to throw money at defense, but don't throw money at infrastructure, because that should be the province of the billionaires. You see where Donald Trump is tweeting out, hey, I could have built this thing for less than the government. Just turn it over to me. Right. Britain tried that. They privatized their trains. I don't know how much it's still private versus how much it's still public, but I remember at the time being in the UK that the year after they had privatized their trains, and boy, were they having a mess on some of their routes. Because the private for-profit corporations, they're trying to maximize profit. How do you maximize profit? Well, ignoring maintenance is a good start. Why are we willing to tolerate third world infrastructure in the United States?